the wealthy king of Accra. Deep inside the beautiful and noisy city of Accra, which sits right in the heart of Ghana, there lived a young and very successful man named Kwabena. Kwabena was the boss of a giant company that made all kinds of helpful things for people across the land. And because his company was so successful, Kwabena had more money than he could ever count in his whole life. He lived in a house that was as big as a castle, with shiny glass windows that looked out over the pretty green trees, and his garage was filled with long, expensive cars that gleamed brightly whenever the warm African sun touched them. He wore the finest clothes made from soft fabrics and beautiful kente cloth, and whenever he walked into a room, everyone would stop and whisper about how important and powerful he was. But even though Kwabena had everything that money could buy, his heart felt very heavy and empty because he was terribly lonely at night. He did not want to come home to a big, silent house anymore, so he tried very hard to find a good woman who would love him and become his partner for life. However, every time Kwabena tried to talk to a lady, something sad would happen because the ladies would only look at his shiny gold watch, his fancy shoes, and his big cars, instead of looking into his eyes. As soon as they found out that he was the rich CEO of the famous company, they would smile, very big smiles, and agree to be with him immediately. But Kwabena could see right through their smiles. He knew that if he lost all his money tomorrow, these women would run away as fast as their legs could carry them because they did not love Kwabena the person. They only loved Kwabena the rich man. This made him feel very disappointed and sad inside because he wanted a true friend who would hold his hand even if he lived in a tiny mud hut. One quiet evening, as he sat on his soft leather sofa looking out at the twinkling lights of the city, a wild but clever idea came into his mind. He decided that he would hide his riches completely, dress up like a poor, dirty beggar, and go sit on the hot, busy streets of Accra so that he could find a pure-hearted person who would love him for who he was inside. The very next morning, before the bright sun could even climb up into the sky, Kwabena took off his expensive gold watch and his soft silk clothes and locked them away safely inside his big wooden closet. He walked out to the backyard and found some old, torn trousers and a dusty shirt that the gardeners used when they were working in the dirt. And he rubbed a little bit of dark soil onto his hands and his face so that no one would ever guess he was a rich CEO. He walked far away from his beautiful mansion until he reached a very busy and noisy market street in the middle of Accra, where cars were honking their horns and market women were shouting loudly to sell their sweet mangoes and ripe plantains. Kwabena sat down on a piece of old cardboard right on the hard, dusty ground next to a big tree, pulling his knees close to his chest and holding out an old plastic cup to look exactly like a poor beggar who had no food to eat and no place to call home. For many hours, hundreds of people walked right past him, but most of them did not even look at him. And some people even made mean faces or turned their heads away because they thought he was too dirty to be near them. Kwabena's legs began to ache from sitting on the rough ground, and his throat felt very dry because the hot African sun was beating down on him, making him feel a deep sadness as he realized how difficult life could be for those who had nothing at all. Just as the sun was starting to get very hot in the afternoon, a young lady named Abina came walking down the busy street carrying a small basket of fresh bread on her head to sell to the people passing by. Abena was not
Come and
rich
get
at
your
all,
fresh bread.
and she wore a very
Fresh
simple
bread.
dress that had been
Come and
washed
get your
many
fresh
times.
bread.
But she had the brightest and prettiest smile
Fresh
that made her
bread.
face look like sunshine.
Come and get your
As
fresh
she walked
bread.
past the big tree,
Fresh
she
bread.
noticed Kwabena
Come and get
sitting
your
all
fresh
alone
bread.
in the dust, looking very tired and hungry.
Fresh
And instead
bread.
of walking away like everyone
Come
else
and get
did,
your fresh
she
bread.
stopped right in front
Fresh
of him
bread.
and looked down
Come
with
and get
very
your fresh
kind
bread.
and gentle eyes. She lowered her basket from her head, knelt down in the dirt without caring if her simple dress got dirty, and pulled out a warm, fresh loaf of bread and a small pouch of clean water from her bag. She handed them to Kwabena with a warm smile and told him that she did not have any money to give him today, but she hoped this food would fill his belly and make his day a little bit better. Kwabena looked up into her lovely eyes and felt a sudden warmth in his heart that he had never felt before. Realizing that this young lady was treating him like a precious human being even though he looked like the poorest beggar on the street. From that beautiful afternoon onward, Kwabena returned to the very same spot under the big tree every single day, sitting patiently in his dusty clothes, just to wait for the moment Abena would walk down the busy street. Every time Abena passed by with her basket of bread, she would always stop her work, sit down on the ground right next to him, and share whatever small food or cool water she had carried for the day. They began to talk for hours and hours while the loud cars and busy shoppers moved all around them. And Kwabena learned that Abena worked very hard from morning until night just to take care of her elderly mother in a tiny rented room. Even though she had very little for herself and her family, she never complained about her life, and she always spoke with so much hope, joy, and sweetness that Kwabena found himself falling deeply in love with her beautiful spirit. He told her fake stories about how he had lost his family and his home, pretending to be a man with no future at all, just to see if she would stay by his side or get tired of helping a poor beggar who could give her nothing in return. Instead of leaving him, Abena's heart grew even kinder toward him, and she started bringing him soft cloths to wipe the dust from his face and would even sit with him when the dark rain clouds gathered in the sky to make sure he was safe. One evening, as the stars began to blink over the city of Accra, Abena looked at Kwabena with tears of true love in her eyes and told him that she did not care that he lived on the street or that he had no money to buy her fancy things. She told him that she saw a wonderful, gentle soul inside him, and she promised that she would work even harder to sell more bread so that they could save enough coins to rent a small room together where he would never have to sleep in the cold dirt again. Hearing these words made Kwabena's heart swell with so much happiness that he almost cried, because he finally knew without any doubt that he had found the perfect, faithful partner who loved him completely for his heart and not for a single piece of gold. The very next morning, Kwabena knew that the time had finally come to end his long test and show Abena the wonderful truth about who he really was. He did not go to the busy street corner in his dirty clothes that day. Instead, he woke up early in his beautiful castle of a house, took a long bath, and dressed himself in his finest, most colorful kente cloth that was woven with real gold threads. He called his personal driver and climbed into his longest, shiniest black car, rolling through the streets of Accra until he spotted Abena walking along the roadside with her heavy basket of bread balanced on her head. When the giant, luxurious car pulled up right next to her and stopped, Abena looked confused and stepped back. But the door opened and Kwabena stepped out, looking like a handsome king with a brilliant smile on his face. Abena gasped and covered her mouth, because even though this man was dressed in the clothes of a wealthy CEO, his gentle eyes and warm smile belonged exactly to the poor beggar she had fed and cared for under the big tree. Kwabena took her hand gently, wiping away her confused tears, and explained everything to her, telling her that he had hidden his riches only to find a woman who would love his soul, and that she was the pure-hearted angel he had been searching for his whole life.